What would you say are the ideal traits of a franchise owner? What traits do they need to have to be successful?
Great, great. Yeah. So we've learned a lot over the first, several years here of franchising. And, we've seen a couple constant characteristics that we harp on now. So again, going past, them being a good person, we've seen that people who have scaled successfully in the past have been great franchisees. And those are people who have typically gotten into their second Paymore store within 6 months, as opposed to someone who may not have the success in scaling something previously that may take them, the full year to get into their second store. I know that's a general statement, but it looks like two different ways as far as what we've seen, in our first 40 or 50 franchisees, is that a lot of them are coming out of different franchises before, and, they've scaled a lot of restaurants where they've come out of, 30 or 40 or 50 Domino's franchises before, or, we've had some people come out of sub shops like a Firehouse Subs. They've had 70 or 80 of those. So they've scaled in their background individual units or areas or area developments, and they've done that successfully. So they know how to get into a store. They know how to listen, which is very important,
Sure.
to what we've done. And we're one of one. We're different. You can't come out of, it's not like coming out of a pizza franchise and going to a hamburger franchise where there's a lot of carryover. We're completely different. I'm doing this 20 years, and with the technology that we have, we've made all the mistakes. We have the system, and it's important for them to listen. And you'd be surprised how many people with less business background listen less than those with more business background or savvy, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of counterintuitive if you
Right.
think about it. So those people have scaled. They know how to run, people and systems and structures. They know how to listen. So, that's one part of it is them scaling something. It doesn't really necessarily have to be franchising or different businesses or unit counts.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of people that have come out of corporate America. We've had some, tech executives or just executives as a whole that have been working, for some of these larger companies for 10, 20, 30 years. And they're finally at a place where they say, listen, I want to create equity, I want to create a dynasty for my family. And they've been successful because they've also grown sales teams or divisions on their background. So actual human capital they've built, and that's carried over successfully, in franchising. They may need a little bit more help on kind of the blocking and tackling of actually owning retail
Mhm.
units, but overall they've scaled successfully. So that's one important trait. The other part, a little bit less important than the successful scaling background, but them coming in to our system with some sort of structure or team. And they don't not necessarily need to have 20 people coming over from their previous job, but maybe a GM or somebody, an area district manager or something like that. We've had a lot of people come in with family, whether it's brothers, cousins. We've had a few people come in with 3 or 4 of their sons and daughters and help out, or their wife is coming in with them. So they typically, from what I see, they have a head start. So they have people they can trust. They know the person that they're coming in with or people that they're coming in with. So they're able to get to a certain number in their store in month 2, as opposed to somebody hiring a new district manager or area developer once they come on to our system and maybe hit that same number in month 3 or 4. Because they're just getting to know whoever they're hiring. We've seen some success in that, them coming in with a certain structure or team, or just a few people that they're comfortable with coming into the system.
How many people do they typically need when they open up a store, and what's the footprint of a typical size store?
Great question. So, our retail, we like to think of as kind of new age retail. It's a little bit different. You got to kind of change your mindset with what our business and brand is, as opposed to traditional retail. And there's kind of several examples of this, and you brought up 2 of them. So we run our stores, believe it or not, off of about 3 to 4 people.
Really?
Which, when you're coming out of a food franchise and you're running a restaurant and you have to deal with 20 or 30 people and payroll and
Right.
liability and deliveries, it's a complete change of kind of mindset. We work our stores often. A lot has to do with our technology and our systems that we put in place. They make running a store so efficient and so tight that you don't need 15 people working there. So the low store count and the low labor, our average labor percentage on our store is like 10 to 12%. And From what I hear from some of the food people that are in a system, it's a half or a third of what they're typically used to. So that's a breath of fresh air for a lot of people coming into our system. And our labor pool, maybe outside of that GM or area district manager, is really 20 somethings that like technology, that like touching technology, playing around with technology or gaming all day. And it's almost rhetorical to say that, but these are 20 somethings that have to work, that want to work, and they'd much rather be in a relaxed, fun environment, playing around with the old electronics as far as their gaming or the new electronics that are coming out, as opposed to maybe flipping burgers or changing oil. So the people that we have there, they typically like working there. It's a relaxed atmosphere. If they're good front facing with clients, they're in the front of the store making deals. If they're not, front facing, with clients as far as what they enjoy, and they're more kind of closer to the vest, they're great for the back end of the store where they're just testing products and listing products and things of that nature.
And how big is a typical store?
Our stores vary, so we're very nimble with that. It's an easy build out. So our average store right now is about 1,500 square feet, but we have stores built out every 100 square feet from 500 to 2,500. So if it's a little bit more of an urban area or a high barrier to entry market, we have stores that are 600, 700, 800 square feet. Think of for a New York reference, like we have a store in Manhattan, we have a store in Brooklyn. Much smaller stores. Then we have much larger stores in more heavier suburban areas. And we can build these out pretty easily now. We've gotten them down very efficient. The key to our build outs is that it's a light lift. And what I mean by that is that, we don't have 15 links in the chain, as far as contractors. We have one contractor who comes in and builds the entire store out. And if you've seen our stores, it's really just some cabinetry that's all modular. Outside of the front of the store, which just, it's just some cabinetry and some casing. In the back of the store, it's just some tables, some computers, and some storage facility. So outside of that, it's not really much of a heavy lift. We don't have any capital equipment. We don't have any venting. We don't need special electric. We don't need special HVAC. So all we need is just a vanilla box. Outside of a vanilla box, it's just that one contractor I've told you, and we can get these stores for a typical store built out for 100 to 125,000, all in turnkey.
And pretty quickly, I'd imagine too.
Yeah, that's right. So we don't need any heavy permitting because we don't need any of that heavy capital equipment. So we've gotten our stores down now to 2 to 3 months build out, which means that the store owner is making money a lot quicker, as opposed to waiting for permits or Department of Health. And also the landlords like it because the landlords are getting their rent. Obviously, we'll try to negotiate the best we can to get as much free rent or TI as possible. But they're getting their rent in month 3 or 4. They don't need heavy TI packages. There's not a lot of things that they have to wait for. So it's good for the store owner or the franchisee. Obviously, it's great for the landlord. And I think the final piece of the puzzle with that is that we're a destination point. So again, switching from normal retail, you need to be on the best corner. You need to be next to Apple or Chipotle, paying Lord knows how much in rent. We don't need that. We thrive in B centers because we're a destination point. People find us through our marketing efforts, or now they're getting used to us in certain markets. So that B center, typically you have better negotiating power, but the rent for those B centers is typically 30 to 50% less than those A centers, right? So our franchisees and our stores can certainly handle, the rent for those A centers, but that's 30 or 50% savings to our franchisees that we can be in the shadow center or the center across the street or a good strip center down the block from Apple. So that's a good point as far as ongoing savings for our franchisees as well, that we only care about population. We don't care about driving traffic area or daily driving traffic towards a store, which is usually what rents are based on.
Sure.
We just want population. If there's population, if there's housing, if there's a community, there's electronics that need to be bought, sold, and traded.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fumey, or Emerging Franchise Group LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its host do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.